Hey, good evening, and welcome to day 26. So, I told you yesterday that I would be getting into creating waves, and well, waves are here. They're not perfect by any means, but I started putting the state machine logic in place. Now, I probably could have completed it this evening. I'm a bit under the weather, and I yeah, so here we are. Anyways, let's get to it. So, biggest things to notice on the game. Let's get straight into running the game itself. When when a user starts a level, they're going to see up in the top level, well, the wave number. Oh lord, let's fix that later. Up in the top left, I'm giving 30 seconds for planning. In that 30 seconds, the players should be placing their towers to protect their base. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a few towers down. The second thing that's going to happen is it's going to spawn all the enemies. Now, there is just a 1 second delay between each one. I decreased it from the 1.5 seconds that it was previously. No reason other than it just felt a little nicer getting the enemies out there quicker. The next thing possibly that I may do is really just giving some sort of random value between when they're actually spawned. So instead of having the constant 1 second, it could be 1 second or 1.5 or anything in between, or maybe even up to 2 seconds. Is that something we really need to do? Is that something that we feel is going to be of value? Not at this time. I think this actually feels pretty good. So, as you see, there's only one wave right now, and that is intentional. That's because that's what I want to set up and do. Let's get through a bit of how this is set up and the how the state machine is doing its thing. So, biggest few things to throw out there. One, we have multiple timers now. So we have a planning timer and an enemy spawn timer. So previously it was just a single timer with 1.5 seconds and it was always running. That timer, as the timer and logic has now been moved under the enemy spawn. So if I go into here, enemy spawn knows everything. Look at that. We love deleting stuff. So as part of the logic that's in here, there are a few things to take note of. One, when we start, there are no enemies in the spawn. The wave start is going to be establishing the enemies here. The second thing to know is that the spawn enemy logic is the same, but it's no longer getting the random. I need to move this stuff around. I just finished it up. The code is readable, I hope. The next thing is, as I was mentioning, we have the empty array here. So we have load enemies. And let me do you all a favor because I want you to be able to actually see this. I think I could put it up at like 1.4. What happens? I hope that becomes a little more readable for you all. All right, anyways. Just gave a bit more screen. So the enemy state is empty. The beginning of the wave is going to be providing the WaveEntry data. Now that is from the resource of the map that's being loaded or the level that's being loaded. So if you're on level 1, we're going to provide the list of enemies that are part of the wave. There are multiple waves up to 10 that I'm planning on setting, but really that number could be variable just depending on what the level is, what the goal of the level is. And then the number of enemy units within there is however large you want it to be. So just showing what the load enemies looks like. Plan on creating an array for flattened enemies. for each of the enemy that's in there. So remember, it's a key value pairing. The key is going to be an enum, which is the name of the enemy that we're planning establishing or that we're planning on spawning, and then the number that are going to appear in the wave. So the goal is that we have one enemy type, a number, and then later we're going to shuffle it. So shuffle really is the randomness that we're looking to establish. We want all of the enemies to be there, but they don't really have to come in a particular order. That may change as we get into boss wave, but I'm going to reserve that for later. Right now, I wanted to establish getting a wave out there and having that experience of a player preparing for the wave and then being part of the wave. That's the goal right now. Cool. So let's take a look at the states and how they're being used as the state manager. So if we come over here to the file system on the left, we have the let me find all right, so I'm going to find a different way. Sorry, I just lost it. All right. As part of the state machine, we have 4 different states. Only 2 of them are being used at this time. One of them is going to be the wave, and one of them is going to be planning. So as part of the planning wave, as part of the planning state, first thing it's going to do when you enter this, it's going to start the planning timer. It's going to show the planning container, which, awesome. Let's fix that because we should. The planning container is going to be that top level. Let me get into the UI. Planning container. The planning container is going to be that top level middle that I need to modify that number symbol on to actually put which wave they're on. And then, so that's going to display. Another note, that's only going to display for 5 seconds. So if you remember when we actually loaded up the game and we started this middle piece only shows for 5 seconds. And again, intentional, because I don't believe that I want the entire screen to be monopolized. So, I mean, what if you want to put something here? I mean, it'll still work, but you can't see where you're clicking. So the next thing is we're modifying that time that's displaying up in the top left. So every time the time ticks, every time we hit an update, we're going to be checking how much time is left, and we're going to be updating that time. So that's going to be able to give the user a quick visual of how much time is left. Easy. Cool. I'm sure there's an easier way, and I'm kind of interested in how to do that. So maybe there's another node. Actually, let's take a look at that together. So planning timer, node. Okay. I only see the timeout. I don't see anything of actually like every second it doing a thing. And I'm not going to worry about that too much. Cool. So the next thing is when the actual timer is done, then at that point, we're going to be starting the wave. So what does it mean to start the wave? Well, first of all, we need to stop the planning timer. Oh, don't do that. We need to hide the planning container. Here we go. And then we need to hide the next wave container. All right, stop it. The next wave container, that's not something that I showed, but as you saw, it was actually part of that main UI for now. So in the main UI, we have our margin container. I need a better name for that. And we have this new wave panel, which is just another VBox so that I can contain both the button and the time. Because why do I really need to hide 2 different elements just to keep it in a line? I can just put it in another VBox. It's fine. It works. There's no padding that's added on there or needed. And then if I want to, I can just move it. I think that'd be pretty cool. Anyways, what is next? Let's go ahead and save this. So that is okay, cool. Let's talk over some other pieces that I worked on today. So I just closed it, but I created what I call the enemy registry. So, you know what? I'll show off a couple things. One, game constants. I started getting a list of different sorts of enemies. I didn't come up with these names. I didn't want to think too hard about it. I asked AI, I said, give me a list of enemies and just tell me what you would put on there. And they gave me a bunch, and I just typed them all in here because that's the kind of pain I wanted to put myself through yesterday. I also started setting the game states as constants. I noticed that I had strings being used in multiple places. So if you take a look at, let's do game over, because I'm pretty sure that that has more logic. If I look at everywhere that game over is being used, game over is being used within the main level. Game over is, well, I guess that's the only place. And then there's just emitting the message of game over. But we also do have start game. There we go. Start game is looking like it's being used in a couple extra places. So as part of the main level, we have game state manager start game. So we're actually calling start game in the game state manager, which is going to emit. And then we have different areas where we are saying if it is start game. So if game state is start game. Oh, okay. Only one place on that one. But regardless, there were multiple places where we had the string. So anywhere where you see this game constants, game states, start game, it was just using the string start game, and that'd be the same for game over. I'm not sure how many more places that's going to be set, because really I want that game state manager to set that, but for being able to actually look at the value later, having the constants really does set consistency. And if you're not real familiar with how to use enums, I would definitely take a little time and learn about that. Again, from consistency, you're not actually, I have a problem where I type state and stats. For some reason, I always type state when I'm trying to type stat. Or I'll add another letter in different places. I'm not going to call it dyslexia. My fingers just move too fast for me sometimes. So, with that being said, I find that constants really help create consistency in removing my mistakes, my human error. So the next thing that I added, so let's go up just a bit, inside of global, I added a signal manager. Now this one is not hugely valuable at this time. I ran across a video that was mentioning putting signals all in one place, and I thought that was not a bad idea. It really does allow to not have to actually call on another node just to establish a connection on a signal. We can just put it in a different spot, and then wherever it emits from, it should only emit from one place. So maybe the naming needs to be better on here. So player health change, who actually does player health change, right? Who should be emitting that message? Currency change? Well, we have a currency manager, so that's probably the best place for that to be. And then game state change, that should be something for the game manager. So maybe the naming on these signals can be better, and I'll be looking to establish that. But now, again, we don't have to reference the node to reference their script to get their signal. It's just in a single place. I think that's pretty cool. But the big thing is this enemy registry. And I thought this was a pretty cool idea to do. And the idea behind the enemy registry, and this kind of came from, I like this idea more as I was thinking about what Roy said in one of my comments early on in this learning journey, is really establishing a different place to put all these things, to put all your your onreadies. At least that's how I interpreted it. And this allows me to not only put them in a different spot, but also to match them up with their enum. So if I need to get a scene for a goblin scout, I already have the enum as part of the wave data that's been added to the game data. So I can just pass in the enum, which again is just a number, and it's going to pull it back. So this is what's actually happening in the game right now. And it's working pretty slick. So as I want to add more enemies, I add them to the top, I add them to the array, I match them up with their enum, and it's done. So it's very simplistic. Now, I can find different ways of doing this where I don't actually have to pull them out this way. Maybe I could just go through scenes and find the ones where their IDs match up. I mean, I think this feels the best for me. It's really one-to-one. So there we go. I think pretty much that is a good start to the waves at this time. Again, been able to establish getting a countdown for the users for them to do their initial preparation. So as a user, I can see where the entry point is. I can see where the exit is just by following the path. It's not a complicated thing. I need to get in here. I need to purchase my towers. I'm going to go ahead and let the time run out. I've been clicking skip planning each time for you guys. But once that timer runs out, those enemies start spawning. The next thing I'm going to do right after this is done and we take a look. Oh, look at that. I broke it. What did we change? Oh, I love it when stuff breaks. So skip planning. Oh, okay. That's embarrassing, but actually that's a really good thing. So I haven't actually set up any of the wave data on other levels. I've only set it up for this one. So I was trying to show you a different level with enemies, whatever. All right, I'm past it. So let's go take a look at our wave data as part of one of our maps. So level 0 is my template. If I come over here to this resource, you can see that we have a size of 1 on wave data. And in the wave data, we have 2 entries. So this is going to be the first wave. So as part of the first wave, we have a goblin scout and we have a goblin runner. So what if I want to add another one? So let's go ahead and go here, add a new wave entry. And then let's go ahead and add that goblin sneak. Yeah, let's add that goblin sneak. I'm not sure that I have a different image for that one yet. But I'm going to add 10 goblin sneak. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to have a lot of sneaky guys. All right, let's go ahead and skip planning and just let it go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, look. The goblin sneak is using our tank boys skin. There's our runner. Oh, he's making a run for it. Anyways. So there you go. I need to put a little defense down here. There you go. That is wave data. So what is the next step? The next step is identifying that all of the enemies have spawned. Not only have all the enemies spawned, but there are no more enemies on the board. So I can do that with a couple things. One, I believe that I should be looking at a state of enemy spawning, and then a state after that of no more enemies to spawn. So enemies spawning would be that timer is continuously running, and I'm waiting for the enemies to no longer be spawning. But once the enemies are done spawning, then the state is, are there any more enemies on the board? If the answer is no, then we're done. So, and then at that point, we get into our next planning phase where we start that next wave. And then I give you the pop-up that needs to be modified. I mean, we need to get that fixed. This here, wave number, wave 1. Let's go. So, anyways, I hope you felt this rambling to be beneficial. This was a really long one. Tomorrow I'll be feeling better, I'm hoping. I'm crossing my fingers. We'll get there. But yeah, I hope you have a good one, and thank you very much.